Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which you take one giant book, break it down, and come here every week to talk about it and have some fun. This season, we're doing JR by William Gaddis, and today we'll be talking through up to page 572. We're heading into the last round of this, actually. There's only 4 episodes left, so we're making it through JR. Starting today. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books. I'm joined, as always, by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox.
Hi, Chad. Sounds like you sound exhausted. Is this book wearing you down? It's a big book.
The life is wearing me down.
Life is wearing you down. Okay.
So I didn't finish. I thought we'd talk. This is presumably the last episode that'll just be the two of us. We have guests lined up, I believe, for the last 3 episodes. And so I thought this might be one where we could talk about the Benjamin essay, Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, and the use of human beings on cybernetics by Norbert Weiner. And instead, I read neither of those things because yesterday I parked my car across the bridge from the university. So there's a footpath bridge that you can take. And if you park across from there, you don't have to pay the university to park. And you don't have to pay the city to park. It's free. So I park my car there every day for 10 years now, right?
Uh-huh.
I walked back over yesterday, and there's no car. My car is gone. There's like no car at all on the street where I park. So there's a cop there. I was like, dude, I think someone stole my car. And he's like, call 911. I'm dealing with someone else. They'll dispatch someone. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I know I don't want to make any jokes about Mace, but you guys aren't very good at any part of your job here in Rochester. So a little subtle dig to the RPD. So I called 911 and they're like, no, your car didn't get stolen. We towed it. And here's a number you can call. It's impounded at the Rochester Auto Pound. And apparently when they had plowed the street that I park on, because we got a shitload of snow, right? Plowed the street that I park on. It was just like heaped up like a couple feet high all the way down the street. And I parked in front of the church's driveway. But you couldn't tell because there's no driveway because there's just like a mound of snow. So since I was impeding a place of worship's ability to get in and out, they just took my car to the pound. So I spent yesterday trying to get home and then today trying to get my car. The best part of which is that when you go to the pound, there's a sign that says why. Like it's like, if your car's not here, here are some reasons why. And one of them is you might owe money. It has been repossessed.
No, your car's possessed.
Yeah. My car is doubly possessed. So I didn't read all the stuff that I planned on.
Do you ever notice? I noticed this whenever I went on walks, like back when I could walk. Those were the days. You go to buy a church, and they are so legalistic when it comes to parking. Like there's the key church that'll say, "Thou shalt not park." Oh, clever, right? But this is like, reserved for the deacon, reserved for the bishop, reserved for the assistant bishop deacon. Like they are insane about who gets to park what and where. It's like, what would Jesus do? You know, he probably wouldn't have a car, first off. He would have walked. 2, he would forgive people if they parked in his spot, even if he had a spot. Like, what is wrong with the church where like they can't just can't let a car park someplace? You gotta get all crazy and get call down the wrath of God through the Rochester impounding lot and come get you and ruin your day.
Seriously,
like, there was a twinkling that you wanted to like turn back to Jesus, like, not forget it. I'm done. Thanks a lot, church. Fuck you. enjoy your driveway. What a terrible example of what it is to be, a Christian. Like, love your neighbors. Isn't that one? That's not a nice thing to do to your neighbor, is it?
No, a mere $220 of fines.
You could have tithed that.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah, they could have used that money for something good.
For mission work.
For mission work.
Yeah.
So, how are you this week, Brian?
I'm good. I went to the doctor. I got cleared to walk. I can walk on my leg. I'm loving it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Living the dream.
Living the dream of being able to walk.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a cake for tonight, and I let my daughter pick out which cake. and she picked some complex thing that requires gelatin and a freezer. And I think now that I'm looking at it, it takes like 6 hours to make because of like freezing and thawing times for this thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and so we won't be having cake tonight until probably tomorrow morning at around 2, I think. I'll have to finish it. I'll have to finish it after this. Let's keep it brief because I got a big peanut butter chocolate crunch nougat thing that I have to make. I got it picked out. So.
Yeah, no problem.
And I've already failed. I'm on step 3 of 17, and I failed already. So it's gonna be. It's not a good start. Unceremonious beginning. It's kind of like reading this book. Like, I'm already lost. Great. I've only got 600 pages to go.
It's kind of, yeah, I think we're both in JR mode. Like you're trying to follow instructions, but nothing quite makes sense and everything's a little chaotic. I just show up and things are missing at a junkyard where literally impound lot where there are just destroyed vehicles and an auction that's coming up.
I just want to make sweet, passionate love, and I keep getting phone calls and interruptions. And
fucking phone calls.
Yeah.
This section is
my car's warranty. Your car's warranty is out of date. You may want to. I always tell the people that my car is worth $1,100. I will take out your warranty. What is it? I would love to fix everything on my old car with 260,000 miles. I'll buy it, and they hang up on me every time. I tell them I'll buy it. You're interrupting dinner, but I will buy your warranty. What is it? Tell me about your car. Well, it's got 3 rim leaks. The exhaust is falling off because of salt and rust. I could have driven it to the moon. It's got enough miles to go to the dark side of the moon. The transmission's going out. I will buy it. What do you got? I want
it. Fix it. Fix it all.
Buy, sir. Click. Like, oh, man. I can't even get spam people to talk to me. What's going on?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, man. Crazy times. JR, huh?
JR. Yeah. So this section is we read a lot, like 80 pages, but it's really just a few extended scenes. The first one
it's like a John Cougar Mellencamp song. A lot of Jack and Diane in this one.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Or Amy.
Yeah, Jack and
John, whoever, Amy.
Yeah, Amy, Jack and Amy.
Yeah.
Amy get together. She takes him in essentially after she meets him at the train station where he's won his horse betting race and won the double. He's got all this money. He's fucking drunk as shit. And she helps take him to her apartment and takes care of him, helps him get set up, helps him get clothes. Like a lot of time passes. I don't know how much time passes there, but it feels like
just a couple days.
A couple days or like
yeah.
Yeah, if you told me it was like a week, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense too. Like it feels like a lot happens, but they basically just bang a lot, and she buys him a suit, and then she takes off for Geneva, and he's like left wandering around trying to figure out what to do. And they have like their relationship also is very much the book in like the Syndoke or whatever it is, of like just like the book represented in like a very small way. And the fact that their relationship starts off all like kind of nice and contained. They're in a closed space. They're in that apartment. So it's a very, and setting up like a greenhousey sort of controlled environment, and then it falls apart. So like the entropy seeps in, everything. There's no way to fix that energy. They just like fall apart. And he ends up like, well, aside from when she's like, oh, it's okay, man. And not everyone can get it up all the time. And then by the end, like that begins one of their scenes and one of they're getting together. And then at the end of this scene, he's using that as proof that she like sleeps with tons of old men and it's like spiteful and everything's turned into like a bad place. So like the chaos has set in and one that even within this little confined environment, things still fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, like it was so obvious this was not going to work. This is a terrible idea. It's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the wonderful part that I liked where he takes his jacket off, or she's helping him, get his clothes off so he can sleep, and he's just filthy. He's just a disgusting, filthy person. And she's asking, like, why are you keep this paper's from 4 years old? Yeah. Why do you have this? What is it coming out of all of your pockets? Just everything he's holding on to, all these things, the the theme, seems to be detritus, right?
Yeah.
You said a few times, and like he is that. He's like he is walking detritus. And it seems like when he gets to her place, it seems like it's very orderly. I got the sense that it was very orderly and neat and well taken care of.
Yeah.
And then he's like he imposes himself into that space, and it's just disastrous.
Yep.
It feels gross. It feels gross him being there. And she's telling him to stop, and he's making moves on her. And like that feels gross. His presence feels gross. And then like everything's spilling out of his pockets into this nice, pristine, pretty area. Like it's just everything. It just feels like a scar in that space.
Crumbled $100 bills that are in his socks. Like it's really gross. And that comes back too, because he gets out all those papers, and then at the very end, she's like, "What are these papers under the seat cushion for?" He's like, "Oh, that's from the first night where you'd like stashed a bunch of random stuff in the seat cushions." Like he is that spilling over of grossness. It's wild. Very funny. But
she's also
so we have that we could talk about.
And maybe the reason she was so helpful to him, I mean, one, she could just be a good person, but she's also alone herself, right?
Yeah.
Because like it's kind of hinted at with the monogrammed robe. I think he puts on a robe.
Her husband's taken her son. They're divorced, but they've been living together there for when her son's back from boarding school. But her husband has taken off to Geneva with their son.
Yeah.
And in part because of like machinations on her father's and her uncle's behalf to like fuck with his stock, which now JR is involved in too, the Nobili stock in the business, because it's going way down. And they're trying to like get another loss leader. Everything's a loss leader. Essentially, everything's just a tax write-off. It's all there. That he's getting involved with that too. So that's where her husband goes. So that's where she goes off at the end, is to catch the airplane to get to Geneva for a mere $456 or whatever it was.
Those were the days.
In business class. Yeah.
On Pan Am. Non-stop, Pan Am.
Safest way to fly.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was wondering, we didn't get to talk about it much last week. I mean, it's still somewhat in the news, but I'm curious with, have you been noticing any buzz with this book, with the manipulation of GameStop and Robinhood? And I mean, it's just like JR for digital age, right?
It really is. As a devoted Robinhood user for a period of time, fuck that company. They wouldn't even let me buy. They wouldn't let me get in on it. I tried to get in on it when they wouldn't allow it. It was all blocked. And then I'm trying to get in on this like cryptocurrency that I know is being manipulated. And like, again, it just blocks me. Like I'm not allowed to make money apparently, but my weed stock's soaring. They've gone up like $40 this month. So that I appreciate. But I have seen lots of people reference this in relation to that, but it's always the other way. It's like, oh, I'm reading JR. It's crazy that this is happening. Okay. JR is the perfect book to read at this time. I haven't seen it where it's like, about the GameStop thing and about whatever. What is the guy's name? Isn't it like Yellow Potato Freak or some shit like that? Is like the Reddit dude's handle.
Of course, for Reddit, I think. It's
just some insane thing. And all those memes are very funny, but I haven't seen the people from that side be like, "Oh, we should read this book."
Okay,
it's kind of the opposite, but
maybe they'll watch the movie Wall Street. That'll be the.
That'll get them going.
Yeah, Gordon Gekko action.
That whole thing is so wild.
Now, if I were to ask you, and probably for most people, when you hear the word Robinhood, is there like a phrase or anything that comes to mind?
Maid Marian.
Okay, Maid Marian. But what was like? What's Robin Hood's creed? Like what kind of person is
the rich give to the poor?
Oh, steal from the rich and give to the poor. That's like the only thing people remember about him, right?
Yeah.
So why would they name this thing Robin Hood? Who's stealing from who? Who are the rich ones and are we the poor ones?
I assume that we're the poor ones because if you sign up, you get a free stock. So they're taking from the rich.
So your brand model is to call me poor. First off, call your customer poor, get them to buy in on you, But then if they do too well, cut them off because that's not cool. I don't want them being rich.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think I read part of their rationale behind it is that they have to cover so much, and that was the reason that they didn't put it down. But and it sort of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like it's unclear like where they're tied to or how their whole system works, and that they might be benefiting from the hedge funds more directly, and so they want to protect them. But I think I might have mentioned this last week, but it's still my favorite thing is that the new owner of the Mets lost like $13 billion in 1 week because of this, because his hedge fund owned a bunch of short sells on GameStop that had to be paid because they got, and so now it could potentially impact the Mets organizational budget, which would be the most Metsy thing ever.
Most Mets thing that could happen.
Really is.
If only the Knicks could get in on that too.
Yeah. So perfect and so random, but yeah, that's the whole stock thing is I mean, it's so interesting to have that happening right now. And like even in here, like there are references that do ring true with that. Like JR last week was like talked about the hedge funds. He's like, maybe we could buy short on this or hedge our things. And they're like, hey, and then you only hear a side of the conversation. And he's like, illegal. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal. That's why you're the lawyer. You figure it out. And even in this section, there's a reference. I forget where it is, but though I think it's Beamish that goes to see Davidoff, who now works for JR after working for the Tyrone company. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
Putting out those brush fires, like answering the calls, putting out the brush fires. Can't get anyone on the phone. Victoria is not the greatest secretary, apparently. Everything's like just the back to the chaos of the original Office, but like in the oh my God, what's the name of the hotel? The Waldorf. Isn't it the Waldorf that they're in? They have the suites that are like corporate write-off suites, and they're trying to get the general to be able to stay for free as good PR for the Waldorf Astoria. I think that's what it is. But anyways, but he's writing there, and Beamish is saying something like, well, yeah, this company, like, they're definitely following the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. And like that phrase kind of comes up, and a lot of these manipulations feel like they're like, yeah, that's technically okay, but not really. Like that's not what this was intended for. And that is very much like the Wall Street, the Donald Trump, and in a different way, the Reddit
impeachment trial.
Yeah.
Well, he's no longer he's a citizen now. You can't impeach a citizen, just a private citizen. Forget what he did just last month.
Yeah. I was talking about how like January was a pretty shitty start to a new year after a pretty shitty year. I was like, January kind of sucked. Everyone I knew was like around the third week was like depressed out of their minds. Everyone's like feeling shitty. It's like, we started the year with an insurrection on live TV. Like, what the fuck do we expect?
Well, I hate to break it to like most folks, but I tried it myself. But like burning sage and just waiting for the clock to tick doesn't change anything. Apparently, it's like the same shit's still there. Happy New Year! Oh, fuck. I thought maybe just like one of those like I would jump into your body, Freaky Friday things.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the years just transposed.
Yeah.
It is rough.
Again,
my favorite note of the week, though, is how the citizens in oh God, what's the name of the town? But where Mar-a-Lago is, are trying to get him out.
Yeah.
Because it's a private club, they're like, you can't live there because part of the rules of the private club are the only people who can live there are employees of the club, and you can't stay for more than like 7 consecutive days or 3 weeks a year, given all these restrictions. So they're like, get the fuck out of here, Trump, go the fuck somewhere else. And they're trying like all these zoning regulations to kick him out of this like insane mansion that like someone I believe to be my relative, Meriwether Post built.
Yeah, the only thing worse than having to deal with Congress is probably an HOA.
Oh, yeah. Angry, it's like old, angry, rich Floridians who are like, I'm not going to put up with this.
They wield so much more power and it actually gets stuff done. I would way rather get called in front of than have to mess with an HOA, with the board and the HOA. Oh, I've been dealing with them, and oh my God, it's the worst. It's the worst.
I can't imagine. I'd rather answer questions about the Jewish space lasers, to be fair.
Hey, that lady represents Georgia.
Yeah, she sure does.
Man, that's what happens when you get the center of the Venn diagram of like Karen, QAnon, and CrossFit. And like she's right in the middle of that, and it is like, wow.
Yeah, she's a lot.
That is a thing.
I love that she's always pictured in a different face mask. It's like end abortion. Okay.
Censor that she's speaking in front of a microphone. Yeah.
So fun.
One of my favorite things in this book, this section was again it comes up when JR is talking with Miss Joubert, and he's making all these huge deals, but he's asking like his classmates if they can bring in some cash. Just like,
can we learn about pork bellies? Can we learn about futures? No.
And again, I think it just goes back to that whole thing of like, I don't understand, and I don't want to necessarily, like, I don't understand how money works. Like this idea of I lost $13 billion, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm worth $13 billion, sort of.
Yep. And
here's Jeremy, these giant multi-million-dollar deals, and just cashing in. It's like, you have $7 because I'm done.
That's a really funny point that comes up in here too, is where Amy Joubert has that interaction with JR, in which he's like, everywhere you look, there's a millionaire who's responsible for it. Everything is like, there's a millionaire behind it. And that's his like obsession. She's like, no, things aren't that crass. Like, here are the stars. Who's the millionaire behind the stars? And like she's trying to get him out of it. And then she mentions that to Gibbs, and he's like, oh, that JR kid, I owe him 70 cents. She's like, yeah, I owe him $1. And they're all indebted to JR for giving, because he's the one who with the coins for the fucking the telephone.
Yeah.
Also, who was it that was it?
This conversation, because is it her conversation with JR or her telephone conversation that you think sparks her to take in Gibbs?
I think that the taking thing is interesting.
She seems to be like a very like level-headed, sort of like straight shooter type of person. She had like a really like solid compass and is on track. And this feels like a departure for her. I'm just curious.
So I have a theory about that. Maybe I don't know if this is true or not, but so they've had the one interaction, and everyone thinks that she's beautiful. Like she's referred to as being like extraordinarily beautiful several times throughout the book. People are like say lewd things to her. Like it's very clear she has like a strong sexual attraction. And
we also mentioned in previous episodes about her at the office, the stockbroker office place, and like how just lecherous everybody was there to her as well.
And David Off in particular too. Yeah. Like, come see these pictures, get closer. But Gibbs is frequently referenced as being super attractive too. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if maybe that's it. If there's just like a physical attraction, because they do have that encounter on the train. Mm-hmm. When Jesus Christ, someone comes in and sits in front of them. And it's like, come on, man. No matter where you are, there's like a million empty seats. And they'll sit down, and it goes in the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing. But there's a tenderness in that conversation between them. And then there is at the beginning of this too. And I wonder if there isn't just like a general attraction, and that Gibbs is like an attractive man, because Dan's wife, Decephalis's wife, also comes on to him kind of out of nowhere. And I wonder if that's supposed to be signaled somehow throughout here, and that has something to do with it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not. It's like she wants to help people. She wants to help Bast out.
Well, there's that, and I think you could probably piggyback onto it, where just like she was mentioning with JR, there has to be something more than just money. There's more to this world than millionaires. Look up to the stars. Look up at the sky. Like, look around you. Look at the beautiful things. And Bast and Gibbs are people who want to put beautiful things into the world.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody else that's surrounding her and surrounding them are just these, let's make money, hustle, money never sleeps, that kind of rise and grind, that kind of crap. Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe just the fact that he's against the grain or against the flow of what everything in that town is might be attractive. And I feel like Bast is kind of like the one that she really wants to be with, and this is kind of the consolation, perhaps.
Yeah, and he does. So when they had their, tying into that, building off of that, when they have their conversation on the train the first time is when he's like, I'm writing a book. And she's like, oh, you're writing a novel. He's like, no, I don't understand women. So I can't write a novel. It's a book about like art and whatever else. And so she's like, okay. And she brings it up again here as like a couple of times. So she's like, oh, when you told me you're writing your book. And then even when she leaves, she's like, go do something, go write your book, go do a thing. And so that does seem to be like a part of it, of like protecting that spark that's separate from the grind, separate from like the true like corruption of like the financial world and even the school. Like the school is a mess. Like they bring up the dead kid a few times. Like things are just overall terrible. And like to try and protect him or Bast a little bit so they can do something beautiful does seem to be like kind of her motive. And the two people that that Gibbs in particular is close to that are also artists, both are like fucked. One of them's dead and the other one like has his painting taken down. And crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so like there is a need to protect those individuals within the book itself or within like the setting of the book. So maybe that her relationship with him does play into that a lot.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious, like why then? Why it happened then?
Yeah. And it does serve as like one of these little leitmotifs of like things falling apart. Like that's why that scene is so long, or that section is so much longer than the others, is to give that sense of like, okay, you think that there's going to be a respite and that there's a way out. Like, is there a way out for things to like work? Can Amy and Jack come together and like have a good life? And like they have everything they need. She's infinitely wealthy. She's about to take over like huge amounts of shares of that company. She has a trust fund from her mom. He's just won big. They are in this beautiful apartment that's like looks like the display room at a famous department store, and they have food. She gets him penicillin, like all the things that like
got food and penicillin.
What else do you need? They've got robes, they've got a shower, like all these fancy things. But they have this moment to have like this really intimate, like positive relationship, and it just like falls apart every time.
Is this blood? What's on your back? What's going on? Yeah.
What's that?
When she's asking, is this blood? What is on your back? Did I do that?
Oh yeah, that's right. I really dug into you.
No, because it's almost like they're not themselves together as well. Like like the world is completely continually interrupting and for lack of a better word, cock blocking the Gibbs, right? Like there's always phone calls or some sort of business. And again, it's the same way where the noise and the chaos of that city and that industry that is just continually blocking anything that could be beautiful or that can be creative, even if it's a one-night stand or making love to somebody. Like you can't even have that in this environment.
And they can't even like stop to really look at the stars. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of horrific when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it's at first it was really funny, and it was the one I wanted to read today for my favorite part was the Everything is a Millionaire.
Oh yeah.
There's a millionaire behind everything. And this kid, like, he has the whole world in front of him. He gets to go to like the Met and go to museums, natural history museums, and he's using the school payphone to just be doing short sales and make, just hustling, making money, moving stuff around. Like there's a million here, a million there. Like you have the whole world, and all you're worried about is that.
And it is like
and Joubert has it, and she's like, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm miserable. I don't have my kid. I don't have my my family's apart. Like people only want me because of how they can leverage what I might have.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Or for her looks.
Yeah. Or look at me, I'm so pretty, and then you're chopped up like meat, or like, oh, here's a company with people that live there, the people that work there, and they have pensions, and chop it up like meat. Like it doesn't, it's just like this terrible, just carnivorous, savage way of living.
If there was, I wonder, I haven't looked, I suppose there is someone who really breaks down the business part of this and like what actually what businesses are involved and how things change hands or what it sort of looks like. I wonder.
Sure, it's super interesting, but I'm just not a big financial person like that.
I'm not either.
I lower it a little bit faster than I probably should.
Me too.
But I'm certain there's very fun. There's got to be something really fun, and there's a lot of gamesmanship and jokes and just hilarity going on there. But I tried to watch an episode of Billions, and I was like, I can't do this. It's too much. I don't want to do this.
But my guess is that, well, this is what I mean. Like maybe someone has figured this out. Someone has probably figured this all out. It's probably fun, like you're saying, and has all this. But it feels like the way that he's leveraged something that has no value and has to, because of the system of capitalism, has to continually try and get bigger or move things around just to be able to cover the losses from the first thing. That he's never had there's no positive. Joubert has money. JR has no money and like we keep saying, he doesn't have cash money. But even within this scheme, I think he's just sort of like, it's a house of cards that's premised upon something that's not actually valuable, like the mining rights that are on a reservation, I believe. So like all of this stuff is like, there's no base, and yet the system creates that force, that endless force that keeps sucking things up and moving. Davidoff coming back, all these people coming back to like that space of like the trades and the helter-skelter nature of it, and none of it actually like adds up to anything.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me in some ways, especially like the whole 3-card Monte thing that you're kind of describing. It kind of reminds me of those like movies or books that have just a really shitty plot where everything is like A to get to B, B to get to C, C to get to D, D to get to E. It's like, can you just stop having me go on these little side quests? Like, I want to see like this person is in conflict with this person, and that can be enough if you want to spend some time writing that. But no, like you have to make like this Christopher Nolan movie where first you have to get the painting, and when you get the painting, then you can meet the architect. The architect will give you the keys to go to the vault, and in the vault you will meet the just have something of value that we can go. Like, come on, stop.
So one of the parts that I think is super spot on here too about this section is that it gets into the book publishing industry and just takes everything apart. And just takes a big shit. And like their interest in the book publishing industry, which they've somehow accidentally acquired, is that they can vertically integrate it with their paper manufacturer and everything else. And that they're printing, like the lithograph company that's printing stuff and the matchbook place that's printing all the matchbooks, they're going to start inserting all the ads into the books. Like, you can't do that. And he's like, why not? You get the New Yorker, you flip through it, it's mostly ads. You're not even know what you're reading. It's just like ad after ad after ad. So why not with these books? And like, you're not supposed to do that. But as you probably know, there were ads in books at that point in time. There were ads for cigarettes in books, in fact.
This just happened to me yesterday. I don't know why my wife decided to just get like the free partial subscription to like 4 magazines or whatever.
Oh yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, so Architectural Digest came in, and I wanted to flip through it and look at it, and like 17 cards of paper just started falling out of it everywhere. Like a subscription for this, for a subscription for that. Like, holy cow! Like there's like 19 3x5 cards just tumble out of this magazine when you try to read it or flip through the pages. It's insane.
It really is. It really is. Advertising runs everything. Advertising is responsible for all business, it seems like.
Growing up, the worst part of a magazine was you would see the article you wanted to read. It's on page 73. So then you're trying to find page 73, and you can't find the page numbers anywhere. So you're flipping back and forth, and then they don't do page numbers on the ads, and probably half of the magazine is ads, like at random prime number intervals or something. I don't know how they do it. Any of you magazine ad people, if you know what is the the psychology behind this, other than just make me angry and then not get to read how to give good blowjobs in Cosmopolitan or whatever article I'm looking for. Yeah. But yes, I think they should start doing that to books. That's a great idea.
They did in a way, but not fully like that far. But like, yeah, like there is in the contracts that we sign. think this is still in our standard contract, but when I was at Dalkey, the contracts that we used from like the turn of the millennium were ones that stated like you could not have advertisements in the book except for other publications by the publishing house. So like you could put like in the back like other books by like this has like other books from, but contractually you are not allowed to have anything else in there. And actually,
Patreon supporters, you do your Patreon supporters and the ones that can subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you could. Well, you could put. I think you could put that stuff because people put like you can donate to make this book possible, things like that in the back of their books. But yeah, there was like they had to regulate it because publishers were like, oh shit, like let's get in on this. And like it's kind of sucks that we don't. Like what if we were publishing like the next Faison book, like they should like I don't know who makes the movie or who distributes the movies, but David Lynch's movie distribution company should be taking out ads in our next Faison book to advertise new DVDs or Eraserhead subscriptions or something. Yeah, I'll take that money, man. I take that money. I mean, these books are not profitable. Like,
there's kind of a fine line to it too. Because what about like Granta or Zoetrope, right? They like every Zoetrope has Marc Jacobs and then the Francis Ford Coppola shitty red wine advertises in it, or Granta has a few like near the front and the back of it. But like, especially with Granta as being more of like a it's like a book.
But it is a periodical.
Yeah.
So I think the regulations revolve around that, perhaps.
No, but like it's those are high-end literary publications like that anybody would be very happy to have their work in. They get some really good work, and then it's soiled with Marc Jacobs ads or whatever they put.
The one that I don't know if this is still true, but I think it is that Bomb Magazine, which is a nonprofit, their back cover was always an absolute donation.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting too. That absolute was just like, this is the way that they fund this magazine is by giving them X thousands of dollars in exchange for that ad space.
Yeah.
But man, we should, let's get in on this. I want to start putting ads. Anyone want to take out an ad in the next book, hook me up, like give us some money. We'll use that money for good purposes.
It only works on, I think, more like funny, energetic type of titles. Like, can you imagine like really heavy, intense? And it's like, oh, here's the like really, really terrible incestual rape scene, and then spearmint gum. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, that's probably not the best taste of where that advertisement should go.
Okay, let's refine this. We will place advertisements for any sort of whiskey. That can never go wrong. Good situation, bad situation, whiskey's there for you. It's perfect. But yeah, there's the one that I remember. Rachel Deal from Publishers Weekly. I don't know. I think she wrote an article about this or wanted to, but was looking into product placement for the idea of product placement for authors. And there are examples of where that's happened. There's like, Faye Weldon wrote a book with like the Bulgari Diamond or something. And it was sponsored by the company. They gave her a certain amount of money to write and include that as a plot point. And, in most like sitcoms and TV shows, product placement is like everywhere. And like, in ones they'll either address it or not address it, but it's all over there. And there's a way that like funds these like small artistic, or not artistic necessarily, but like sort of, I mean, they get them an audience and keeps them afloat, gets them the money that they need to be able to stay making their TV show. And books just don't capitalize on anything. Anything that's like a way of like making money on the down low. Books are like, nah, we're good. We're moral. We're upstanding. We're beyond that.
I think we should absolutely maintain the sanctity of books.
Yeah.
Only two ads should be allowed.
Two ads. So at the end of this, we need to come up with blurbs that are equivalent to the blurbs for the books that they're publishing from this section. They're just incredible. I like ones like, Chittering Ones, a serious work which urges us to lay aside our fears and realize our true strength. Quote, the outside world of American life is described so imperfectly and so superficially as to make us feel that the novelist himself has never known it. Dumber does not persuade us that this is based on any but a narrow and jaundiced view, a projection of private discontent. Molten our God. Another long and rather dreary saga of modern man in search of a soul, Baltimore Sun. Oh my God. A complete lack of discipline, Cricket Reviews.
Cricket Reviews. Oh, that's funny.
I absolutely love it. So good. Yeah, this is here's the ad thing, like where they go through and describe the whole thing. And this part is so great. So that they're talking to Mr. Davidoff about it, and they're like, so he's like, so Beamish, for one step ahead of you, already set up a page for Wonder Beer in the Onion Crust GI. Or G, I mean, next printing may even work it right into but the authors, Mr. Davidoff, the writers, best thing ever happened to them. S. Duncan here, come in spouting art and literature. What they really mean is a big advance on royalties. Book finally comes out at $15, sells 2,000 copies. They blame him, blame the reviewers, blame TV, blame everything, but production costs. And your little old lady at the Shady Nook bookstore spouting art and literature rakes off half, wet her pants when the paperbacks come out, spread culture, grab the mass market. Now you pay hardcover prices for paperbacks. What pays production costs for your TV spectaculars? What keeps the Times on the street? What keeps Virginia? Where's that old New Yorker magazine lying around here? Like, they does go down that path of like art and literature. Got to keep it art. Got to keep it high-minded. And you're like, yeah, it doesn't pay the bills. Which is kind of where we're gonna, in some ways, could segue into the Benjamin essay on art in the age of mechanical reproduction, which talks a lot about the idea of the value of the original or of the thing itself and its various reproductions. But overall, like, I think that this it's sort of savaging the publishing world, but the publishing world is like, in a way, like the stock market. It doesn't work. Like, the system doesn't seem to work. I mean, you could argue legitimately and thoughtfully that the whole business model of Penguin Random House is to acquire more things so that they don't lose money on the things they've already done. That it's just getting more, accumulating more, printing more, buying more companies so that you can just have more, so that the things that you did in the past that aren't profitable are replaced by the thing you just bought. That's giving you like the next injection of cash, similar to how most of this seems to be working.
Very JR move.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else from this section that's worth mentioning?
No, it's fun. It had some really nice ups and downs. I liked it. It was funny. It was tender. It was sad. It was funny.
There is one more thing worth mentioning is the logos.
Oh my gosh, just right.
Just right.
That's my favorite one. Just right. With the money sign.
Everything's a dollar sign. Just right for JR. There's one with the person behind bars. So fun. So what was your favorite line from this one?
So I'll go all the way back to bottom of 502 up to 503. JR's working it, and Miss Joubert's waiting for the phone. So in this New York Review version at the bottom of 502, I mean, there's so much stuff. He got half a step ahead. Like, did you ever think, Miss Joubert, everything you see someplace, there's this millionaire for it? Is that all you think about? Sure. I mean, look back there. He blocked the door by way of opening it for her with his back against it, bringing the wind in. Like right now, someplace there's this water fountain millionaire and this locker millionaire and this here light bulb one. I mean, like, even the light bulb, there's this glass millionaire and this one where you screw oh, wait a second. And it goes on for a little bit. But I just like that idea of this bright-eyed little kid, and he just sees the world through that lens. Like, he's like the perfect American.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of can I remember we used to get those stupid, they're like spiders, they're like sticky, and you throw it against the wall and it'd like slowly walk down the wall.
Yeah.
Sure someone, I don't know if it's true, but someone being like, oh, the person who invented that made $1 million off of that toy because it was like the adhesive was something unique or whatever. Yeah. I don't know if any of that's true, but it was like all this detritus, all these little things. There's someone who like put that in motion and made bank off of it.
The pet rock.
The pet rock. If
you're old enough to know what a pet rock is, right? Like, that person made $1 million off of the packaging.
Yes, absolutely. So here's my favorite one from this week is on 537. It's talking about her uncle Uncle John, and Gibbs is like, well, it just sounds like a man who likes to win. And she's like, yes, Dimes to win. Dimes, do you know why? Because all these years he's hated Franklin Roosevelt. Still does. He thinks he ruined the country. And when that dime came out with Roosevelt's face on it, he started to collect them to get them out of circulation. Honestly, he did. He had a pocket in his suits, a special one to put them in. At the end of the day, he'd got any change or won at cards. He'd empty out his pocket into boxes. It still does. I just love someone being so fucking irate about they're like, I'm going to remove every dime I can from circulation to spite you.
He gets so good after that too with the ask for the ashes. So it's the best way to make china. It's like good china plates. Get a chop plate out of it.
Oh my God.
A crazy person. Yeah.
So funny. So next week we are going up to page 647, which, like I said at the beginning, we're getting near the end. 3 episodes left after today, and we'll finish off JR. So I'm frozen, so I say we end this one.
All righty. Until next time.